I joined the forensic services. First of all, normally at the time, that was in 2008 thereabouts, we don't really get to choose where we want to go after internship. You're just sent out. But I had the opportunity to share what it is I really wanted to do. And I remember speaking to the director of medical services at the time and sharing that I joined medicine to work with the dead. So I wanted to do forensic pathology work. Working in a mortuary, and he was very confused for a minute. He said, "So you don't want a hospital setting?" I was like, "No, I don't want that. I just want to do investigations into crime and death." And so that's how I ended up in the forensic services. And of course, I prayed a lot for that because that was my dream. That was my childhood dream. And so I ended up working in City Mortuary. I was so excited. I know it sounds crazy, but that was actually a dream come true for me. So in 2012, I was posted to the police surgery, and up until then I had been dealing with people who were not speaking and who were dead, and you have to figure out what happened to them. And now I interacted with a very different group of people who were all speaking. Most of them were in physical and emotional pain and psychological distress. They could all recount what had happened to them. And that incident was like the beginning of a long journey of recovery and pain and distress and despair, because many of them were going to be involved in the criminal justice system, which means they go through court and all that. So for me, that really changed my perspective on things. I was very confused at first, like, what do I do with all this? Then I realized forensics goes beyond the dead. It's actually for the living as well. In fact, everything that takes place in a forensic medical space is for the interest of those who are alive. And so it really opened my eyes, and at the same time I had already joined a master's in forensics, which was dealing mainly with the living. I didn't know that at the time. And so this really worked out well, because now I could apply what I was learning to the living, and it would not have been applicable with the dead. And this I find very interesting, because no one knew about it at the time that I was studying until I was almost through. So, I call it divine appointment, because then I discovered there's a whole field of people and science that has been completely untouched in our country. And so I call myself a pioneer in the field of clinical forensic medicine, which is for the living. And it's important because it's all about evidence management, evidence collection, looking at a patient holistically beyond just evidence gathering, but also their medical needs, psychological needs, their safety needs. If I get, let's say, a woman who's a victim of domestic violence, I have to think about her psychological state, her physical needs, her reproductive health needs, her children, are they safe, are they not, where is she going home to, can I get her a shelter, does she need a lawyer, does she need a psychiatrist first or a psychologist first. It's a lot broader in terms of management, and so I'm hoping it's a field that will grow faster rather than slower, because we do have a sexual and gender-based violence crisis on our hands at the moment. After some time, I noticed that a lot of, especially sexual offenses, about 90% of those the victims were children under 14. And you'd get histories, I would get histories of how these incidents would arise. Would be, to me, I thought, how can a parent do that? How can they just leave their child with anyone? Why would you let a stranger into your home? Of course, they could be dangerous. So I realized that there were things to me that may have been obvious that were not obvious to everyone. And so I decided to just start talking about it online and in a space that I have control over, because getting to media personalities was proving difficult. And that's how I started blogging on a website, and I called it vunjakimya.com. So for breaking the silence. So then I would upload a lot of information, things to try and avoid doing, what to do in the event that certain incidents occur, just like giving the public information and scenarios that they should avoid or know how to navigate through. What the P3 form is about, what's a post-rape care form, when does it come in handy. It is all this information that most people don't really know about until they find themselves in need. Then there's a lot of confusion. How do I go about this and that? And when I picked this up, I thought, let me just help how I can. And then I realized that I would have to do a bit more and I would need funding. So I registered Vunja Kimya as a non-government organization so that we can be able to attract funding and be taken more seriously, and do more, have a larger impact. And so that's what gave birth to Vunja Kimya Foundation.